All right, picture it. It's Friday night. The weekend is here. The week is over. The air feels different. You've got snacks, maybe a pizza on order. You've got time and you've got one mission. Pick the perfect movie or movies. And back in the 80s and 90s, you didn't open an app to do that. You went to the video store. Buzzing fluorescent lights, carpet that somehow smelled like popcorn and plastic, rows and rows of VHS boxes, each one promising adventure, comedy, monsters, or just total chaos. And the best part was, you weren't just picking a movie, you were picking a weekend memory. So welcome to the very first episode of what I hope becomes a weekly tradition here on AVA Pop Culture, Friday Night Rentals. Now, we always say be kind, rewind. Here is where that all started. Every week, I pick a few movies that feel like legendary VHS rentals you'd grab off the shelf. One crowd pleaser, one cult hit, one hidden gem, and some extras, maybe from the horror aisle, and every now and then some themed weekend nights. But no matter what, we are going to pop that tape in, so you do the same. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so welcome to AVA Pop Culture Rentals. This is week number 1, and I have a perfect selection of movies for you tonight, including one little bonus to kick us off right in our first episode. But we're going to start right here with the biggest crowd pleaser of them all from the 1980s, one legendary film written all over my shirt. That is Back to the Future. You can't start Friday Night Rental series without one of the best ever as far as crowd pleasers go. You had Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis behind this, the amazing Michael J. Fox. Everything came together perfectly. Back to the Future isn't just a movie. It's basically a perfect piece of pop culture engineering, directed by Robert Zemeckis, produced by Steven Spielberg, and starring Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, with Christopher Lloyd as his crazy, zany friend Doc Emmett Brown, one of the most iconic duos of all time. And the setup is simple and legendary in this, although maybe not as simple as we remember it, kind of convoluted and a little risque at the time. Marty is just a normal 1985 teenager until the scientist nerd friend of his unveils a time machine that he built out, of course, a DeLorean. I mean, why not do it in style? He says it himself. And in one chaotic night, Marty is launched back from 1985 to 1955, where accidentally he gets into all these different kind of things, including interrupting the moment where his parents were supposed to meet, which causes a cosmic set of problems. So suddenly the mission isn't just to get home from 1955, it's to fix history to keep yourself from being erased. The whole time paradox comes in here. And what's amazing about this movie is it was a huge monster hit at the movie theater. Stayed in the theaters for over 9 months. It wasn't some underground discovery, but it was VHS that turned it into something even bigger. This was a tape everyone owned, everyone rented, everyone rewound and watched hundreds of times. It permeated all of pop culture and the collective zeitgeist. It's funny, it's thrilling, it's emotional, a little naughty and risque, believe it or not, in a couple of spots, but it's the kind of movie where every scene matters. It is a perfect script. Every line is quotable, and the ending makes you want to restart it immediately and watch again. This is the ultimate Friday night begins right now movie rental. If this tape was on the shelf, it was probably already checked out. Now, VHS is where cult films really grabbed a foothold because they could reach word of mouth and you could rent them and share them with your buddies and all that kind of stuff. You didn't have to go to the theater for them, and there was no internet to look them up on. And cult films sort of made a place in our hearts in pop culture just by the discovery and the sharing and the organic nature of them. Cult films made VHS, and VHS made cult films, and nowhere is that bigger than in Big Trouble in Little China. Our next rental for the night, let's talk about Big Trouble in Little China, because this is the kind of movie you didn't discover because it was famous. Just like I was saying, you discovered it because your buddy had heard of it, because you knew who John Carpenter was, maybe because of Halloween. And the VHS box just looked too weird and awesome to be ignored. Big Trouble in Little China is sort of the crown jewel of cult video store legends. Directed by John Carpenter, starring big movie star Kurt Russell, and honestly, it's one of the most gloriously insane genre mashups ever, certainly of the decade. Russell plays Jack Burton, who's a loud, cocky truck driver who thinks he's the hero of his own action movie. He's really the sidekick in a lot of ways. And he thinks he is the hero until he gets pulled into a supernatural war beneath Chinatown involving ancient sorcery, kung fu battles, monsters, lightning shooting demigods. Of course, you have the blue lightning, and he's not ready for it at all. And the brilliance is, Jack Burton in this movie, he's kind of useless. You see Kurt Russell, he's this big star and everything else, but in this movie, he's kind of absolutely a side character playing the lead character. He's not the chosen one. He's just a guy who wandered into a myth. The film is part action movie, part fantasy, part martial arts epic, part comedy, part horror, dark fantasy, you name it, there's a little bit of it in there, and it moves with pure VHS old school 80s energy where absolutely anything can happen and the rules are thrown out the window. That's what makes it a perfect cult film. And this movie did not explode in the theaters by any stretch of the imagination. It was kind of a misfire commercially, but VHS and the video rental store rescued this film, because in the video store era, weird movies didn't die. They waited. They waited to be discovered at sleepovers, midnight rewatches, late night cable TV, all of that stuff. And suddenly they became legends, the thing of myth that we talked about, loved, and built up beyond their station, if we're being honest. And this is the kind of tape, Big Trouble in Little China, you didn't rent this once. You rented it, you discovered it, and you kept watching it, and you spent the rest of your life thanking God that you found this thing that is so incredibly weird that you cannot forget it. A true cult classic forged in the rental aisle. A perfect second rental tonight in our cult gem category, Big Trouble in Little China. All right, and for our third rental, normally this would probably be the final one, but I promised you a big first night, so we're renting 4 movies tonight. We have a little bonus, but here in the hidden gem section of our video rental store is The Last Starfighter. This one is a hidden gem that you probably found by accident and never forgot. The Last Starfighter is pure 80s wish fulfillment, sci-fi, directed by Nick Castle of Halloween fame, starring Lance Guest and Robert Preston, who gave it that sort of warm, classic Hollywood charm. Also, Catherine Mary Stewart, who I had a crush on back in the day because of movies like this. And the premise is basically every kid's fantasy. Alex is a teenager stuck in a small trailer park dreaming of something bigger. His escape, like many of us in the 80s, was to hit the arcade, and he was going to play a game all the time called Starfighter. And all of that is great until he gets the high score, and then in the most 80s twist imaginable, the game turns out to be a recruiting tool for an actual intergalactic defense force. So overnight, Alex goes from a kid with a stack of quarters playing a game to the last hope of the galaxy. That is, you can't get more 80s VHS than that. This movie had a modest, very modest theatrical run to it, but it became a VHS discovery machine because The Last Starfighter is exactly what rental stores went for. Finding movies that felt like secret treasures. Maybe they had one or two people you recognized that they could base that on, and it had a lot of heart, adventure, aliens, sci-fi, space battle, a little teen romance to it, and even early CGI that was mind-blowing at the time. This is the kind of movie you rented as a kid, and it made the universe bigger than your neighborhood. That is how hidden gems become legend. And for our rental tonight, I think The Last Starfighter is a perfect choice to go with our other three films, and this one fills out our hidden gem category here at AVA Pop Culture Rentals on night one. All right, so anybody who follows me knows that I am a horror filmmaker. I'm a horror fan. Now, I'm a filmmaker overall, but horror is what I do the most. 80s horror is what I grew up on. So you can't leave the video rental store on your first night curating the perfect weekend of rentals without a little trip down the horror aisle. So before we grab these tapes and head to the counter, let's take a quick trip down the spookiest aisle in the video rental store, that forbidden fruit, and pick us out a horror film to fill out our weekend. Now, every week we won't do this. We'll normally have 3 categories. Sometimes we will have full theme nights for the weekend, like snowy weekend movies, all kinds of stuff. But our baseline will be 3 categories, and every now and then an extra surprise category, because maybe you want to watch a few more movies that weekend. And for this weekend, our trip down the horror aisles is going to get us an all-timer, and that is Fright Night.
Welcome to Fright Night.
I love saying that every time because it's perfect, and this is the perfect horror rental to go with our other films. We got Big Trouble in Little China, Back to the Future, The Last Starfighter, and then Fright Night. Directed by Tom Holland. No, not Spider-Man Tom Holland. The Child's Play Tom Holland. This movie is basically a love letter to classic vampire movies, vampire lore, 80s teen suburban movies, all of that stuff, Hammer vibes, old Universal horror vibes. It's all mixed in here as Charlie, a teenage boy, discovers that his suave, cool new neighbor is in fact a vampire. And when nobody believes him, he teams up with a washed-up TV horror host played by Roddy McDowall and tries to stop him before it is too late. The tone of this movie is perfect, as was the cover art that scarred me back in the day. This just scared me so much and made me want to rent it. But it is scary, but fun, gory, but playful, stylish, but cozy. I mean, this movie has practical effects that rival The Thing. They are that good, and the practical effects make it sort of have more of that VHS magic. This is exactly the kind of horror tape you'd be renting and thinking, it'll be a little spooky and a little fun, and then it becomes a permanent favorite. Absolutely horror film VHS royalty is Fright Night. It is a perfect addition on our trip down the horror aisles, that little forbidden spooky section that had the coolest covers ever, and it fills out our rentals on our first Friday night rentals here. And that is sort of what we're going to do here. That is a perfect weekend of energy rentals. That would have been a just top-notch weekend back in the 80s. So you're going to get one crowd pleaser usually each week, a masterpiece, one cult legend, one hidden gem, and some surprises, and some occasional extra little themed weekends. Because sometimes, we get on a kick. Like my buddy and I would go in and be like, we're going to rent a bunch of ski movies this weekend. We're going to rent Out Cold and Ski School and all that kind of stuff. And I still have that energy in me, and I still love going into themes, so I'll share those with you too. But I wanted to kick us off with sort of what will be the baseline of Friday night rentals here, because maybe you can discover some of these movies that you've never seen, or they can help you rediscover how much you love them and those feelings that we used to get, and that excitement when you rented the perfect movies and you set up the most awesome weekend with your friends, with your family. And that's what it's all about. Movies are meant to be shared, and that is the whole spirit of this series. This isn't about what's trending. It isn't about movies that are hot at the moment and then forgotten later, and it certainly isn't about content. It's about movies that lived on shelves like these behind me, that got rewound to death and became part of our lives because the video store and VHS and society let us have time to discover them and share them. Now, I want to know, what would you rent on a Friday night? If you were going by these guidelines, what are some things that you would rent? Maybe you'll see them on the next episode of Friday Night Rentals. And I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments, and we'll do even more of these and get even more fun with them. I got a lot of things working. We can even bring back midnight movies with Chase if you guys are interested, and take a whole other walk on the wild side when it comes to movies from the 70s and 80s particularly. And if that is your kind of thing, make sure you hang around. And if you want to support what we're doing here more, you can join my Patreon. The link is always in the description. And besides getting your name in lights on every single video, you'll get behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, special members only videos, 4K deep dive reviews into movies just like this, our new restorations of our favorite VHS era films, and so much more. And everything goes back into the channel because I love what I'm doing here, and nothing started in my life without hitting play on the VCR first. But until next time, especially on Friday Night Rentals, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.